friends of all ages, shapes, and colors. Welcome to our show. Tonight we have another true story, and I know sometimes when people claim a story is true, that very line is a red flag that the story is not true. But not here, not with me, and who am I? Why, I'm Richard Fore to be exact. Man of many talents, experiences, and who lives a life filled with total absurdity. Oh, all of this incredible, on point, and perfect music you are hearing. Those musicians are the Curly Hairs. And you want to know something? When Dick and the Curly Hairs say it's a true story, you better believe that story is true. Sometimes we talk about stalking exes, putting down certain genders or other things, and the truthfulness of those things are left up for you to decide as viewers of our mystical art. But when we say it's true, you don't have to guess. And why do we tell you it's true? Really, you want to know why? Because trying to make it up for shock and awe would only ruin it. You can't make this up! This is a story that happened recently, and when I say recently, I mean it's so fresh. I'm still trying to process the entire asinine situation, so help old Dick here mentally work through it. Are you ready? Are you ready for truth? You sound ready, so from Dick's life as a landlord, here we go! 1, 2, 3, 4, truth! Called again, of course he did. He always calls like a lighthouse with no ship, just beaming madness into the void, and without any pleasantries. No hello, no good morning. He opens with, Dick, you know my neighbor, your other tenant here. I know he's smoking meth inside. That kind of tone you'd use to report a burglary or tell someone their cat joined a cult. And I, unfortunately, am legally obligated to answer these calls. So I say, okay, do you have any proof? And that's when it begins. He pauses, then asks, completely serious, what's your company policy on smoking meth? Like we're Amazon and someone misplaced the guidelines for controlled substance use in multifamily housing. I take a breath that would make a monk envious and say, we don't have a policy on that. And he fires back, why not? And I say, because meth is illegal on every level of government in all 50 states and in most of Earth's functional societies. We didn't think we needed to explain when, where, or how to use meth. Because generally speaking, you're not supposed to. He goes quiet, not offended, just recalibrating his internal map of nonsense, and then he tells me his plan, his master stroke, his legal hammer forged in confusion. He says, well, I went to the doctor to get tested for meth. I blink. You? Yeah, I figured if I tested positive, that would prove the other guy was doing it. Let me repeat that for posterity. He wanted to test positive for meth so he could use it as evidence that his neighbor was smoking meth. Not because he took meth, but because maybe the meth smoke floated through the wall, entered his bloodstream, and lit up a test like divine confirmation. This was his plan. And he was disappointed, deeply disappointed, when the test came back negative. He sighed and told me, damn it, like meth was the missing puzzle piece, like he failed at being innocent enough to prove guilt. And now let me tell you about the driveway. We've got a long gravel driveway, slight incline, not a mountain, just a gentle upward inconvenience. He has a motorized wheelchair because allegedly he cannot walk, and yet he pushes it with his legs while walking behind it up the driveway. The machine designed to carry him becomes his burden, and I watch as a man who tells me he can't walk uses his legs to push a 300-pound mobility aid up a hill so he can better position himself to accuse another tenant of theoretical meth use. It's not just absurd. It's performance art disguised as grievance. He moves like a man staged on a religious trial in a courtroom made of gravel and bad faith. There are no training manuals for this. No lease clause that reads, in the event a tenant requests a meth policy, please refer to common sense. There's just me, Dick, landlord, confessor, lesser, unwilling protagonist in an off-Broadway drama called Delusion. The lease never ends. I rent apartments, but some days I feel like I'm managing a circus where the clowns call 911 because they want to test positive for meth to prove that someone else was smoking meth inside of all places. He pays his rent and always has, but is it worth it? I don't know. But that is the only reason this story hasn't ended in ash. But still I wonder, how far would he push that chair to prove he couldn't walk? How many more drug tests will he fail before he finally nails someone else's sins to the wall? And how many voicemails must I suffer before I qualify for sainthood? Well, you wanted to be a landlord, and this is your opportunity to internalize the plight of someone who just wants to make an honest living singing, podcasting, and having a modest real estate holding company. You have stories, I mean real and true stories. Send them in, and maybe if they are better than ours, if you can one-up Dick, we would consider transforming that into everlasting and eternal.